appreciate it, man. Yeah.
Gonna end.
Glad to have you up here, bro.
Woo!
Oh, man. How was your travel?
It was great. 30-minute drive from downtown Austin.
Whew. Man, I came from Oregon. It was like, at least I got a direct flight over here. I'm excited to have you up here, man.
Thanks, man. I'm glad to be up here and talk about mining and the future of energy.
You know, I've been eyeballing you for such a long time, and you've done this fascinating thing where, and we'll get into it, I'm sure, but you've built this social media empire like outside of Twitter. Like everybody's on Twitter in Bitcoin, like crypto space, or they're on YouTube, right?
Yeah, TikTok is a great AI to build content into, and we'll touch more on what that means.
Let's get a little bit into your background. What was your entry point into the Bitcoin and digital asset space?
So I was a freshman in high school when I found about Bitcoin on TechCrunch. It was about 2013. I was like, this technology is going to change the world because anyone, no matter what age, can buy it, no matter what race, no matter where they're from. And that just resonated with me. And so since freshman year in high school, I've been trying to figure out how do you make Bitcoin mining accessible? How do you make this space open where anyone can put computers to work for them?
Why would you say that word accessibility? Why is that so important to you?
To me, we only have so much time here, and we trade our time for money, most of us. I think there's a future where computers can work for people instead of having people having to trade their time for money. And the energy infrastructure is the backbone of the US dollar. Oil trading is in US dollars. And so energy is a fundamental building block to society. I think Bitcoin mining can help move the energy transition into a more renewable space. But I think that energy can be put to good work, mining Bitcoin, and provide incomes for people all across the world.
You had a quote that I read from you, another quote. You have lots of great quotes, by the way.
Yeah, what happens when you make content? You have to focus on those keywords because every second matters in a TikTok video or YouTube short, and you have to keep the listener or the viewer engaged throughout the whole piece. So those quotes, they seem to resonate.
You said the truest form of money. Why is Bitcoin the truest form of money?
Well, it's money backed by electricity that's programmatic, that we all understand there will only be 21 million of them. We all understand the issuance rate. You don't have that with the US dollar. You don't have that with any other currency. I think that's fundamentally changing how we view the fiat money system.
Yeah, it's true. For the first time ever, we do have the ability to track all of this stuff. We have the ability to really fully see it. I mean, we don't even know how many dollars they've printed. They just tell us how many they've printed.
Yeah, the CIA stopped tracking. I think it was like 2019.
Okay, so you got into Bitcoin mining. You got into Bitcoin, crypto, digital assets. But when did the mining in particular start?
The mining started pretty early for me. So I got into Ethereum and Litecoin mining. Ethereum wasn't out at the time, so Litecoin and Dogecoin mining. Started off in my parents' basement, installed a new 20-amp circuit with my dad, and we bought a few GPUs off of eBay, and it was running in a milk crate. And from there, I was like, wow, this has the potential to really impact and affect a lot of people. So went to family and friends, grandma, grandpa, and raised $100,000. At that point,
wow.
We bought 300 GPUs. They were R9 390s. Was running them in Graham, North Carolina at an old paper mill where they had some excess power. And from there, took me all over the US and world.
Wait, how did you get grandma and grandpa to give you so much money, okay?
Well,
for digital currencies nonetheless.
I went to them and I was like, hey, here's what I want to do. I want to buy all these graphics cards off of Newegg. And they were like, that sounds interesting, Bitcoin. So I said I put some money in, got some money from my grandma. She put about like 15K in, but she trusted me.
Wow.
That, this was the future and Bitcoin had a staying power.
That's a pretty young age to gain the trust of your grandparents.
Yeah.
I did not have the trust of my grandparents. Probably still don't. What are some lessons in that early stages that you would say to people along the way? You know, a lot of people in this room are probably just jumping into the Bitcoin, crypto, digital asset space for the very first time. And there's probably some pitfalls along the way that they would most likely like to avoid. What are some of those things that you would say in the early stages that you really feel like you would like to share with the crowd and give them an opportunity to avoid themselves?
I would say surround yourself by people that are here to make a difference and work for the longer term vision. You want people that are going to be owners in your organization, that are going to look at problems and solve them uniquely, and more importantly, focus on communication and incentives. Incentives are why we all come to work, or why we do what we do. It's really important that those are aligned with your team as you scale. And don't be afraid to try. For me, That was the kid saying, okay, here's a business plan, let's raise 100K. Now we have all these graphics cards, there's no operating system to run 8 GPUs on one motherboard. What are we going to do? And just kind of innovating, solving problems one after the other. So don't be afraid to jump in with both your feet.
Take risks.
Take risks. You can't, even if you mess up, your system is built. We have the protection in place to be able to learn from those risks and to be able to move on. And it's important that you don't hold yourself back based on a fear of what might happen in the future, because fear is the mind killer. It's important that we live in an abundant world. We live in a world where energy has the opportunity to create jobs for millions of people, and we need to believe that ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that goes right back to that quote, though, that you were saying earlier, where it's like, even if you failed, you learn something from that. How many times have you failed?
Oh, thousands. I mean, I fail every day.
Yeah. Fail forward, I think, is like the common quote. Yeah, that does deserve a round of applause. Let's do a little bit of a mining recap. Some things that have happened in the last 12 to 18 months. This industry is rapidly evolving, changing. Innovations are constantly occurring. What are some of the biggest surprises that you would say really caught you off guard? Or maybe you don't. Maybe you just have your finger right on the pulse, like right there. But is there anything that surprised you along the way in the last 18 months?
I think I was surprised about how many people were selling space that necessarily they didn't have for miner equipment. And we saw the China ban. Now the problem isn't getting the miners, it's getting the space. And there's a lot of opportunity to get those large transactions done, to find those substations, to build out these sites. But that process takes a lot longer here in the United States than it has in other areas of the country.
What do you mean by the space? What is that comment?
The mining space, hosting space, place to run this equipment. I think it's easy to sell the vision that we're going to have 500 megawatts or gigawatt installed. There are some very good operators in this space, and I believe they'll be able to install it, but it's very hard to hit those timelines at scale to work with the regulatory industries, the commercial aspects of these deals, and the regulators here in the United States.
What would you say are some of the biggest, out of all of that, that you said a lot there, but what are some of the biggest difficulties, biggest hurdles that people need to be preparing for when they're deciding to go launch their own operation? When you're saying, oh, we're going to do this big space, we're going to have this big operation, what are some of the things that typically end up getting in the way of that?
I would say if it's your first time building out a mining facility, definitely start smaller than, don't try to start enough with what machines you have. Hosting other people's machines, it can be a lot of work. It's great because it helps build the space, helps get more machines running and securing the network. But at the same time, if you're a new operator, it's a business with very little margin. And so for myself, I focused on trying to create aligned incentives, trying to create ecosystems that increase accessibility, and focusing on making Bitcoin mining more accessible versus just providing hosting space for clients.
We kind of talked about some of the difficulties, some of the things that could perceivably be seen as a negative. What about something positive? Are there, what is your favorite development or change that's occurred in the last 18 months? Maybe you can go back further if you'd like, and just be like, wow, that was incredibly amazing. I'm really loving this new hardware, this new software. Something that really was like, wow, this is it. This is the next big thing.
I think for me, it's just the innovation in the space, from all this stranded power. We have people using natural gas or people using coal, geothermal, not necessarily stranded, but we have people using waste energy. Those individuals who are exploring how do we generate electricity for very, very cheap, which is the #1 cost in our business, are the ones who I think are pushing the forefront. It's the same type of structures that my firm is trying to put together with behind-the-meter energy. And these structures are possible, but they're they're complex regulatorily and commercially to get a deal done. But the clarification is needed both on the state level and on the power market level to make Bitcoin mining a real industry that's going to grow rapidly. I feel like right now a lot of it's being held back by these utilities and other counterparties in the energy industry that don't necessarily want to change the game, but we're here to change it.
Real quick, when it comes to the energy use, we were going back and forth as we were getting ready for this discussion, and you talked about wanting to create a unified message around energy use. What does that mean to you? Why do we need a unified energy message?
So I think we're seeing early actions on the message of Bitcoin mining energy usage is bad, and we've seen that throughout, since 2013 as a narrative. It's important that as a community we focus on controlling that message and understanding that energy that's used to mine Bitcoin is inherently good. Using energy to mine Bitcoin is a feature, it's not a bug. It's important that as an industry we create content that educates the public on the benefits, the jobs that are created through Bitcoin mining, the construction jobs, the jobs of people shipping those machines from China to the US. Everyone in the supply chain is getting value from Bitcoin mining. So it's important that we don't look at Bitcoin mining like a bad energy sink. And I think we do that by creating content that's concise, that is unified around a message of that energy usage is not necessarily bad. And also, we need to incentivize people to use more energy effectively mining Bitcoin. We need to incentivize people to show off that they're mining Bitcoin, make it something that is a status symbol, so that in the future, we're all competing to see how many Bitcoins we can mine. That's kind of my goal.
So no proof of stake?
No proof of stake.
Not a fan? You're not concerned with how much energy Bitcoin is using?
I'm so concerned that Bitcoin is not using enough energy.
There we go. I've heard a lot of that, though. I've heard a lot of this positive messaging around energy usage. Do you feel like there's any problems with the way that it's being communicated currently?
No, I think we need to communicate it
Get
more.
louder.
You get louder.
Get louder.
Get out on TikTok, start making the content.
And that's our next topic, social media. You've done it just like, dude, I've tried them all. I mean, I've tried to do TikTok. I've tried to do Instagram. Apparently, Twitter works well for me. That's working well. But anybody on Bitcoin can do well on Twitter. Like, it seems like there's a large group of that. I don't know anyone in the space. Sure, you got some crypto folks, but nobody that's focused on mining the way you are and Bitcoin the way that you are that's been so successful with TikTok. I mean, it's truly incredible. You have like a view, like you have your pinned TikToks, and one has 35 million views from a single. Is the 80 million number higher now than when I last looked?
No, that's right.
Okay, because you have one video is 35 million.
Yep.
How did you make that happen?
Well, I was working with my digital director, and we were driving down to this German festival actually outside of Austin. In the back of the car, we were writing a script. So we had a video that got 10 million views, and we looked at that script and we said, okay, what did well here? And when you create content, you want to focus on one of the 4 or 5 things that make our industry unique. So how hot it is, how loud these machines are, how much money they make. All those things are unique. There are people that are watching necessarily don't get to see in their day-to-day life. And so for ourselves, when we looked at that script, we saw what first 2 lines went well, and we modified it to say like 11 Lamborghinis. And that just happened to really pop, where people were like, who would buy 11 Lamborghinis? And for some reason, that right there made the video really go viral. And as I mentioned, we used a script that already got 10 million views. So we knew it was going to do well. When you're creating content, it's really about adapting and understanding, okay, this person did this worked out for him, what can we do to make it better? That video, it ended up getting about 65% of people that watched it watched the whole thing. It's about a 59-second video. It's over 100 years of people's life have been spent watching that one video on TikTok, which is insane. And it went up to about 20 million views in under 48 hours. So just the adrenaline rush. I was actually at a crypto networking event, just like refreshing my phone. Like, it just got another 2 million views. Like, I'm the only one that cares, but it was great.
Oh, man, I can tell you, I've had a few dopamine hits from some sick tweets that have taken off, but not 80 million views. That's for dang sure. Wow, that's pretty incredible. So then, but when you first jumped on social media, like, what was the plan from the very beginning? Was it you always had this thought, like, you're going to build this social media empire? Was it just an expression of yourself?
Just an expression. I mean, I myself have been friends with creators, and I've been in that industry since high school, college time frame. Some of my friends, create content every day, and it's their full-time job. They get brand sponsorships. So being able to learn from them, being able to network with them, being able to actually meet people like Mr. Beast and have him come to me and be like, hey, I solved the Bitcoin mining, or not the Bitcoin mining, the YouTube algorithm. He actually has a Bitcoin mining farm, or had one back in 2017. And I was like, no, you didn't. You don't know what you're doing on YouTube. Next thing you know, the guy's doing 100 million views on each video. So the content allows you to create memorable experiences, memorable emotions for the viewer, and allow them to really resonate with you. I think the Bitcoin mining space, we have that disconnect of people don't understand our industry. So we do that. We kind of get over that space by creating content that connects with the viewer and helps them make them part of what we're doing.
What are some tips and tricks for those out there that just don't have a clue on how to make their videos connect with people?
Be authentic. Share your story. Be authentic. We all have unique things in our day-to-day that we do in business or we do at our homes that we can share that people don't get to see. And it might not sound unique to us or it might be mundane, but the reality is that type of if it's extreme, people are going to resonate with that. So those 5 things or 4 things for Bitcoin mining, it really resonates with people, and we've seen that that type of content always performs well. So when in doubt, think of what you do that's unique when it comes to Bitcoin mining and highlight that in front or behind the camera.
What are some other things that you think that you did? I mean, because being authentic is huge. I think that's a very big part of social media, especially when you're in front of a camera. But are there any other aspects along the way where you learned that it had a massive impact? I think another tip you kind of gave was, look at what's working and reuse that or go down that same path? Is there any other big things that you learned along the way, or big pitfalls to avoid?
Imitate, then innovate is the conversation there, and then also be consistent. There's not many people out here that is as consistent as Josh Terry Plays, who's in the audience. He makes wealth content and abundant content. It's about putting it out every single day. That's what's super important when it comes to content.
Every day?
Because you'll learn. I don't put it out every day, but it's easier said than done.
Yeah, it's a little harder when you're doing videos.
It is, but it's not impossible. Because for us, with the B-roll for the mining content, we just take a bunch of B-roll of the facility, me walking around it, and then from there, voiceover on top of it. And that voiceover, that script, is really what makes great content compared to okay content. It all comes down to that script, which is why it's so important that every word that you choose for that video is well scripted, and the tonality is very important as well.
I saw someone running around with a camera that was following you here today. I hope I show up in the footage. If you want to show up in the footage, make sure you stay close to JP. You can maybe show up in one of his TikTok videos. What do you think about other miners, though, and other people in the space? Do you think that they should be jumping into social media? Do you think that they should be leveraging it, and why?
I think everyone should leverage social media and leverage content creation because it helps you dictate and tell that story. And even in our local communities, it's important that where these mines are operating, people understand what we're doing in their backyard. People understand that we're not producing toxic waste, that we're using energy in a clean way, and that we are sometimes shutting off and providing that energy back to the grid. It's important that your community knows, as a Bitcoin mining operator, what you're doing. People, they hear them. They know they're there.
Yeah, we were just over the tour on the Whinstone facility. It was pretty incredible. Let's go forward, though. Let's look to the future and talk a little bit about where things are headed for you with your social media. What are the big plans for the social media platform? What are the next big things when it comes to YouTube, TikTok, anything that people should be looking for on the horizon?
For us, we're just working on making Bitcoin mining more accessible. So we'll be getting into software, hiring a team of software developers to make, as mentioned, Bitcoin mining something that anyone can do from their mobile phone, from their home. It's not cloud mining. It's a mix between actually owning equity in the actual Bitcoin mining units themselves. And
how does that work?
Well, that's the secret.
One real quick question I want to ask everybody out here. How many people in the audience are currently offering jobs in the space? They're like hiring. They have you work at a company, and they're offering jobs at the company you're working at. How many people here are looking for jobs? They're trying to work in the space, get in the space. Okay, well, some of you need to definitely get into the space and start working more. That's for damn sure. We're at a Bitcoin mining conference, okay? What about for the industry as a whole? What do you see coming for the Bitcoin mining industry in the next 18 months? What's on the horizon? Are we moving towards more renewable? Are we going to be seeing some new manufacturing coming out? Are we going to be seeing some new deals coming out?
I'm excited for massive amounts of capacity to come online, some of that behind the meter, some of that in ERCOT and other places, but I think we're going to have a golden age of Bitcoin mining. Hopefully, the last week was the bottom for BTC, and we're off to the $1 per terahash per day type of deal.
What's your approach? Are you doing, quick question, do you do the hodl all the Bitcoin or reinvest it and put it into the company?
I hodl the Bitcoin and then we lend against it.
How does that work?
So you put your Bitcoin, you wrap it on Ethereum, put it in Aave, and lend against it for 3%.
And then you use that to reinvest into the infrastructure itself.
Pay your power bills, reinvest in the infrastructure, pay payroll. But the goal is to stack Bitcoin. That's why we wake up every day and run our mining facilities, right?
Absolutely, man. That's why I'm here. What's in store for you in particular? We're just going to be closing out real quick. Last question, closing comments. What's in store for JP? What do you got coming up? Anything else that anyone should know about? Any announcements?
No announcements at this time. We have 280 megawatts in the pipeline that we're looking to deploy in 2022. Super excited to figure out if that's going to be self-mining or also hosting. I would say if you have hosting space, it's very valuable right now, so make sure you treat it like that. I would not sell my hosting rate. I would not sell myself short when it comes to hosting and the energy rates that you're charging. I think there's a lot of demand for the space, and so really my closing comments are: have fun, create content, and let's mine some more Bitcoin.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for coming up.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.